that if Tehran refuses a ceasefire and fails to reopen the crucial Strait of Hormuz, American forces could blow up Iran's desalination plants, the very systems that supply drinking water across the country. Let's just break this down first. In a post on Truth Social, the US president saying negotiations are underway with Iran and progress is being made, but he is also issuing a rather blunt warning if talks collapse. In Trump's words, Washington is ready to completely obliterate Iran's critical infrastructure that also includes electric power plants, oil wells, Karg Island, assets Trump claims the US has so far deliberately avoided targeting. And Trump, remember, had earlier set a deadline for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz by next Monday or face direct strikes on its power grid. And Trump's latest threat coming amid the ever-escalating situation on the battlefield across West Asia.
Because they want to take over the Middle East, not just as...
Now, on the ground, the intensity of the Iranian missile attacks has reportedly reduced, but their impact is reportedly growing more destructive. A ballistic missile strike has triggered a major fire at an oil refinery in Haifa. Take a look. Just a day earlier, another attack caused a massive fire at a chemical facility near Beersheba. Iran has also allegedly struck a power and water desalination facility in Kuwait. The attack followed joint US-Israeli strikes that triggered widespread blackouts in Tehran, while the Israeli military says it has struck a university in Tehran linked to the Revolutionary Guards, claiming it was being used for advanced weapons research. The human cost of the war has been mounting as well on all sides. In Tehran, residents could be seen digging through the rubble after strikes hit a residential building. In neighboring Iraq, as per local government officials, a rocket attack targeted an Iraqi airbase west of Baghdad airport and destroyed a military aircraft.
بعد منتصف الليل.
The Martyr Muhammad Allah Air Base was targeted by 122 Memem-Grad missiles, and actually one of our planes, which is an Antonov 132, was hit badly and destroyed. This is a condemned and reprehensible act. We have started an investigation to follow and chase whoever carried out this act.
Meanwhile, in Turkey, the country's defense ministry said NATO forces had intercepted a new missile fired from Iran, the fourth since the start of the West Asia war. The economic shockwaves from the war, especially its impact on global energy markets, continuing as well, with the crude oil prices looming around $116 a barrel. G7 ministers held an emergency virtual meeting where they basically pledged to undertake necessary measures to stabilize the global energy market. Meanwhile, Iran has reiterated that it does not have any nuclear weapons ambitions and has now said that its membership in the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty is under review in the parliament.
Iran has never sought and does not seek nuclear weapons. Regarding membership in this treaty, regardless of our clear position on the prohibition of all weapons of mass destruction, this is genuinely a debate taking place within public opinion and at the parliamentary level.
And in Europe, divisions over the war are further widening. Spain has now shut its airspace to US planes involved in the Iran war. It has already denied the use of joint military bases to America, remember, with the Spanish Prime Minister calling the war in West Asia illegal, reckless, and unjust. Back in Israel, the fallout of the war continues. A large missile fragment landed in Bedouin village in southern Israel, while in the Arab town of Shefa Amr. Shrapnel from an alleged Iranian strike damaged homes, adding to the civilian fears on the ground. Now, diplomatic diplomatically, the gap also remains wide. Iran saying it has received that 15-point ceasefire proposal from the United States, but calls it loaded with excessive demands. With threats now extending to water infrastructure, the stakes in the war have never been higher. While the US claims to have achieved military success in Iran, its losses have been mounting. It seems America has now lost its key eyes in the sky, with Iran claiming to have destroyed an E-3 Sentry aircraft during its recent attack on Saudi Arabia's Prince Sultan airbase. Visuals of the Iranian strike's aftermath showed a heavily damaged E-3 Sentry aircraft. This comes as a huge blow to the US, as this airborne warning and control system aircraft basically is considered as one of the jewels in the American military's crown. And while the US has a fleet of 16 E-3 Sentry aircraft, it has deployed at least 6 of them to West Asia. Why this aircraft also stands out is its ability to track drones, missiles, aircraft from hundreds of kilometers away. So eyes in the sky, basically. Modified from Boeing 707, an E-3 Sentry can gather detailed, real-time battleground information and pass it on to major command and control centers. Costing around $270 million US, it can carry a flight crew of 4 plus a mission crew comprising 13 to 19 specialists. Operational since 1977. This aircraft played a vital role in multiple conflicts like the Gulf War, the Iraq War. Now that's not all. It's considered as the world's premier command and control battle management aircraft. It can survey an area of more than 312,000 square kilometers, which is roughly equivalent to Poland's land area, for example, just for context. It can reportedly track close to 600 targets at one time, ranging from missiles to even tanks on the battlefield. Additionally, it is more effective than a ground-based radar. For instance, reports suggest that an E-3 Sentry aircraft is likely to spot Iran's Shahed drone fired 200 miles away, about 85 minutes sooner than ground-based radar. 85 minutes sooner. It's not easy to replace this aircraft, as the nearest equivalent, Boeing's E-7 wedge tail, is yet to be procured by the United States. While the E-2 Hawkeye is another option, it has fewer crew to monitor the battle space and its radar cannot cover as much territory as an E-3 Sentry. Apart from the aircraft, the US has lost other key military assets as well, of course, since the beginning of the war. Earlier on the 1st of March, 3 US F-15E Strike Eagle fighter jets were shot down in Kuwait in a friendly fire incident. Iran claimed to have struck an F-35 fighter jet on the 22nd of March, a claim which the US denied. In mid-March, one KC-135 fueling plane went down over Iraq, resulting in the death of all 6 crew members, reportedly. Besides this, 5 more KC-135 were reportedly damaged in an Iranian missile strike on Saudi Arabia's Prince Sultan airbase. Iran has claimed to have destroyed at least 10 radar and communication systems stationed across West Asia. It also claimed to have destroyed the THAAD missile defense system at multiple bases, including Jordan's airbase. And this was a huge setback for the US, as it was using THAAD to basically track and intercept aerial threats. Overall, the US losses in the first 3 weeks of the war are estimated at $2.9 billion US. In another development, meanwhile, IRGC has asked Washington to officially condemn attacks on 2 key Iranian universities, setting a deadline, failing which it would target all American and Israeli universities in West Asia. very significant. It asked staff, students, civilians living near such universities, in fact, to stay away to preserve their lives. So the Gulf nations are increasingly fearing retaliatory attacks from Iran, from hotels to universities, safety concerns looming large. The advisor to the UAE president demanded that any US-Iran peace settlement must include clear guarantees that Tehran will not attack its neighbors again. He also called for compensation for attacks on civilian infrastructure. The reported damage to the aircraft raising another crucial question. As the US prepares for a potential ground invasion of Iran, can it really go ahead with such a blind spot? And with talks in limbo seemingly, it will be very interesting to see the US and Israel's future course of action from here onwards. Meanwhile, as Trump is claiming victory, the president continues to threaten to obliterate Iran's energy infrastructure if a ceasefire deal is not reached. But the skies in West Asia are telling a different story. Despite being hit badly, Iran has been striking back hard. From US military bases to Israeli oil hub and cities, all are being targeted. Here's the latest from on the ground.
Raging flames in Haifa. Black smoke billows. This is Israel's biggest oil facility. Iran has hit it again. Israeli forces claim intercepted missile debris sparked the blaze. No direct hit, they insist. But images tell a different story. Israeli missile defense systems are facing a tough test as it struggles to tackle Iran's missile and drone salvos. These are images from the southern Israeli city of Beersheba, where an Iranian missile struck a factory, sending black plumes of smoke and billowing flames high into the air. Arab town of Shafa Amr in northern Israel also came under heavy attack.
2 or 3 hours ago I was sitting. I am the uncle of the owner of the house that was hit. I heard the sirens. Few minutes later, I heard, in seconds, I heard the explosion and I thought it's my house. Thank God we didn't have casualties.
Shrapnel fell here in this area, and the rescue team arrived to the site. They were searching the area and closed off the area. This is part of the work that the rescue teams are doing 24 hours.
Iran kept up the pressure on its Gulf Arab neighbors as Saudi Arabia intercepted 5 missiles targeting its oil-rich eastern province. Bahrain sounded a missile alert. And a fireball erupted over Dubai as an incoming missile was taken out by defenses. The latest images from Iraq show a raging fire on the tarmac, which also houses a support center for the US Embassy. Israel's military claims to have struck dozens of weapons production sites, including a long-range surface-to-air missile manufacturing line in Iran's capital, Tehran.
My brother was neither military nor IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, nor a Basij, paramilitary militia member. He was an ordinary person whose house became like this. They hit a residential home at 3:30 in the morning.
US military also continues to rain bombs on its targets across Iran. But despite the overwhelming military power deployed against it, Iranian forces are hitting back. Iran's strategy is about persistence. Ballistic missiles launched in waves. Drones used to probe and distract. Defenses get saturated, gaps appear, and when they do, strikes land. While American Marines and the US warships move into position for potential ground operations, the IRGC stands ready. They are no longer hiding in the shadows. They're striking the economic and the military heart of their adversaries, proving that even when cornered, they can still inflict pain. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And as the West Asia war has completed a month, attacks are no longer restricted to military installations alone. As the US and Israel are increasingly pounding Iran's energy infrastructure, West Asia's Gulf lines are on target. Power outages, in fact, were reported in Tehran as well as its neighboring Alborz province, following attacks on electricity facilities. Very significant. Iran's Deputy Minister of Energy revealed that a transmission station and 6 high-voltage substations went out of service as a result of the falling debris. Eventually, power was restored to most areas of Iran's capital. Subsequently, Kuwait's Ministry of Electricity, Water and Renewable Energy accused Iran of carrying out an attack on a power station and a water desalination plant, resulting in the death of an Indian national. Kuwait also stated that 10 of its military personnel were injured after an armed forces camp was struck by Iran's missiles and drones. However, Iran denied its role in the attack on Kuwait's desalination plant. The IRGC accused Israel of carrying out this attack in order to frame Iran. Earlier as well, Iran, remember, denied involvement in attacks targeting locations in Turkey and Oman, calling the incidents a false flag operation aimed at creating discord between Tehran and its neighbors. Even though Iran has distanced itself on this occasion, IRGC announced a week ago itself that it will target energy infrastructure, including water desalination facilities in West Asia belonging to the US and its allies, if its energy infrastructure is attacked. And this has naturally raised concerns over the vulnerability of the desalination facilities in the region, which supply most of the region's drinking water. You see, an attack on desalination plants will be disastrous for Gulf nations like Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, as they are among the most water-scarce regions globally. These countries produce roughly 40% of the world's entire desalinated water and operate more than 400 plants along their coastlines. Some of the biggest water desalination plants in West Asia include Saudi Arabia's Ras Al Khair, UAE's Tawila, and Israel's Sorik. In fact, 40 to 60% of the total water consumption in the UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar comes from desalination plants. For instance, Gulf Cooperation Council data showing that close to half of Kuwait's water supply is dependent on desalinated water. Qatar, meanwhile, relying on desalination to meet 61% of its water requirements. Groundwater is the other major water source of these countries. Even Iran's sworn enemy, Israel, gets over 80% of its water from desalination plants. So an attack on desalination plants will imply a huge escalation in this war. Meanwhile, the retaliation of Iran and its allied groups continued. Iraq's Mohammed Allah Air Base, located beside the Baghdad International Airport, was hit by rockets in the early hours of Monday. Visuals showed a fire on the tarmac. Iran, though, continues to justify its retaliatory attacks on Gulf nations, citing that the US is using military bases in those countries to launch attacks on its soil, it claims. Listen to this.
America is continuously using its military bases in our neighboring countries. The news published lately about US airplanes being damaged in military bases in neighboring countries clearly shows that their land is being used, with or without their consent, by the aggressors against Iran. Therefore, what Iran is doing is defending itself, and it's not considered attacking regional countries.
And with Trump threatening to destroy all electric generating plants, desalination plants and oil wells of Iran if it does not reach a deal soon, West Asia continues to remain on edge with the volatility on the rise. And as that war rages on, Iran is emerging as a key beneficiary of the ongoing energy disruption triggered by the conflict in the region. As global oil prices surge past $100 per barrel, Tehran has managed to keep its crude exports relatively stable at around 1.5 to 1.6 million barrels per day. Now, this combination of the steady volumes and elevated prices is significantly boosting revenues. Estimates suggesting Iran's daily oil earnings have nearly doubled as compared to pre-conflict levels, strengthening its fiscal position despite the ongoing sanctions. And while other producers struggle with the supply disruptions, Iran is effectively capitalizing on the higher prices without needing to ramp up output. And amid the heightened tensions, tanker traffic has been disrupted across the Strait of Hormuz, that critical passage vital for global trade. Iran's strategic position along that strait gives it significant leverage over global energy flows. And with competing exports facing bottlenecks, Iran's ability to influence or restrict movement is tightening global supply and pushing the prices higher. And despite sanctions, Iran's oil exports continue through a well-established network of unofficial channels, a large shadow fleet of tankers reportedly, and discounted crude sales, particularly to Asian buyers, have helped sustain export volumes. As supply from other producers becomes rather uncertain, buyers are increasingly turning to the available and consistent sources. And this is, of course, allowing Iran to maintain its market presence even in this volatile environment.
So the Americans are in a serious predicament here. And it seems that, as the saying goes, the easiest option for them, the least costly option for them, is to allow their enemy to continue selling oil and to continue earning money from its biggest exports, because the alternative would be much worse.
In the middle of an active war abroad, the US military is now fighting a desperate battle to try and secure its own ammunition, not from anyone outside, but from those within its ranks. Security protocols have been shattered by an internal breach, a huge development. A US Marine is reportedly facing federal charges for allegedly stealing military property, including a Javelin missile system and multiple types of ammunition. The weaponry stolen from Marine Corps Base Camp, reportedly, Parental, and transported to Arizona. Investigators are scrambling to trace lethal hardware before it disappears into the underworld. Reports indicate that a Marine stationed at Camp Pendleton has been arrested following the federal investigation. The charges are quite explosive. Federal authorities allege the serviceman systematically stole high-grade military hardware, including Javelin missile systems and thousands of rounds of ammunition. So what exactly are Javelin missiles? The missiles are sophisticated, shoulder-fired, anti-tank weapons. Currently in high demand globally, these are fire-and-forget anti-tank guided missile systems. Javelin has been jointly developed by Raytheon and Lockheed Martin. It is designed to defeat modern main battle tanks, basically by striking them from above, where their armor is the thinnest. The movement of these assets Detectives tracking the movement of these assets found a trail of stolen munitions that bypassed standard military inventory checks. The suspect now faces several federal charges as the military heightens its internal audits. Before we go on any further, a quick look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. We tell you how Israel's move to block a cardinal from Holy Sepulchre triggered an international outcry. Lawmakers in India's Telangana passed a bill that would slash salaries of employees not taking proper care of their elderly parents. All this and more coming up. Pakistan's terror face exposed once again on the international stage. The latest report prepared by US Congressional Research Service has laid bare its support for terror groups. And as per the report, Pakistan has been identified as a base of operations for numerous terror groups. It has named 15 terror outfits operating on Pakistani soil and categorized them into 5 categories: globally oriented, Afghanistan oriented, India-oriented, domestically oriented, and sectarian. It also specifically nailed the role of the Lashkar-e-Toiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Hizbul Mujahideen, Harkat-ul-Jihad Islami, and Harkat-ul-Mujahideen in carrying out terror attacks on India. That's not all. The report also accuses some Pakistani madrasas of teaching doctrines that could lead to greater acceptance of violent extremist ideology, while acknowledging Pakistan's National Action Plan, framed in 2014 to counter terrorism. It highlighted how numerous US and UN designated terrorist groups continue to operate on Pakistani soil with impunity. Pakistan's military also came in for criticism over its failure to defeat terror outfits. Pakistan's turbulent internal situation once again coming to the fore. According to this report, Pakistan currently is the country most impacted by terrorism, with terrorism-related deaths in the country spiking to over 4,000 in 2025. Now, this, of course, is not the first time that Pakistan's role as far as terrorism is concerned has been acknowledged globally. Earlier this year itself, the United Nations linked the Jaish-e-Mohammed to the Delhi Red Fort blast, which claimed the lives of 15 people. This was mentioned in the latest report of the UNSC sanctions monitoring team. Without naming any country, it also mentioned one member state, noting that the Jaish-e-Mohammed accepted responsibility for a series of terror attacks. Founded by Masood Azhar in 2000, this outfit is responsible for several terror attacks in India, including the 2001 Parliament attack and the Pulwama attacks. The rush to approve US President Donald Trump's proposed White House ballroom is reportedly raising serious red flags, with experts saying the process itself is deeply flawed. The ballroom is facing a lawsuit alleging that the US administration bypassed the required reviews and public input. This week, the US National Capital Planning Commission is reportedly set to take a final vote on the matter, which could even lead to a halt in the project. This proposed project is planned to be entirely funded by private donors, and Trump said that the ballroom project was ahead of schedule and under budget. Trump also highlighted the proposed security upgrades of the ballroom that reportedly includes a secret bunker.
Bulletproof glass. We have drone-proof roofs, ceilings. Everything's drone-proof and bulletproof. And unfortunately, we're living in an age where that's a good thing.
So the scrutiny leading up to the lawsuit has also been gaining a lot of attention. The US Commission of Fine Arts reportedly cleared the project in just 12 minutes. That speed is reportedly extremely unusual. And as per reports, projects like a White House ballroom require extensive, detailed, months-long reviews for even minor changes, let alone a complete reconstruction. And experts warn this rushed approach has skipped critical design stages, allegedly. Key decisions like increasing the ballroom's capacity were reportedly still being made late in the process, reportedly. In some cases, construction planning will reportedly move forward even before designs are finalized. Experts also pointing to a lack of proper public review, unlike past major US government projects that usually underwent years of debate and refinement. The ballroom proposal reportedly combines preliminary and final approvals into a single step, something usually reserved for minor upgrades, not a massive addition to the White House. The design itself is also reportedly drawing concern. The ballroom is expected to dominate the White House complex, reportedly disrupting its historic appearance. Its sheer size could reportedly overshadow the main residence and alter the visual appeal of America's most iconic sites. And there are also practical flaws here. The Grand South portico is reportedly largely decorative than practical. With no direct access to the ballroom, columns could reportedly block natural light and views while inside. The oversized hall may feel empty during smaller events, raising questions about its efficiency and purpose. On to a move by Israel that triggered international outcry, dominated headlines. Israel blocked Jerusalem's Catholic cardinal from marking Palm Sunday at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And following international outcry, Prime Minister Netanyahu reversed the ban for the remainder of the Holy Week. The developments have been particularly significant given the implications of what unfolded. Basically, for the first time in centuries, the heads of the church were reportedly prevented from celebrating the Palm Sunday Mass at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And Netanyahu posted on social media just after midnight that he instructed relevant authorities to grant full and immediate access to the cardinal. Let's just also break this down further. How did things reach this point in the first place? What really happened? Israeli police had said all holy sites in Jerusalem's Old City, including those sacred to Christians, Muslims, Jews, had been closed to worshippers since the start of the US-Israel war on Iran, particularly locations without bomb shelters. Police said they had rejected a request for a Palm Sunday exemption. The police said that the Old City and the holy sites constitute a complex area that does not allow access for large emergency and rescue vehicles, which significantly, according to them, challenges response capabilities and poses a real risk to human life in the event of a mass casualty incident. That's what the police said. Naturally, reactions had been pouring in. Among them, Italy's prime minister criticized the police action. The foreign minister said on social media that he would summon Israel's ambassador over the incident. France's president, meanwhile, condemned the Israeli police's decision, which he said adds to the worrying increase in violations of the status of the holy places in Jerusalem. And following international outcry, Prime Minister Netanyahu reversed the ban for the remainder of the Holy Week. Remember, Palm Sunday marks the beginning of the Holy Week, the most important week in the Christian calendar, leading to Easter. Naturally, the developments are being monitored very closely the world over. The ultimate dream of making gold from other metals like lead, the quest of the ages, has been achieved by accident in a high-speed collision of heavy metal beneath the Swiss French border, physicists seeking the dawn of time have stumbled upon the philosopher's stone. Humanity's oldest dream is no longer a myth. Our next report breaking this down.
For centuries, the darkest corners of history were filled with the smoke of secret furnaces. Kings and charlatans alike, obsessed over a singular, impossible transformation, they sought the power to rearrange the very fabric of matter, to turn base metal into eternal wealth. It was a pursuit that defined the birth of chemistry, but remained an unreachable fantasy until now. At the Large Hadron Collider, the mission was pure science. Researchers were smashing lead ions together at nearly the speed of light to recreate the conditions of the Big Bang. They wanted to see the universe in its first microsecond of existence. Instead, they witnessed something very different. In the subatomic chaos of a high-energy collision, the lead atoms underwent a violent metamorphosis. As protons and neutrons were stripped away in the heat of 1 trillion degrees, the atomic number of the lead shifted. In a flash of unimaginable energy, the lead was no longer lead, it had become gold. The yield is microscopic, mere atoms of the precious metal born from the wreckage of the heavy ions. But the implications are huge. The ancient alchemists failed because they lacked the power of a star. CERN has that power. By chasing the origin of everything, they have finally mastered the ancient art of making gold. Bureau Report, WION World is one.
Flying within India will get more passenger-friendly from the 20th of April. The DGCA has mandated that airlines must make at least 60% of seats on every flight available without any extra charge. This move basically comes after the Ministry of Civil Aviation intervened amid the rising complaints over high seat selection fees. Under the new rules, passengers will no longer have to pay additional charges for the majority of seats, including those away from the back of the plane. Currently, most airlines offer only about 20% of the seats for free, with passengers paying anywhere between 200 and 2100 rupees to choose the preferred seats, which gives them the option to choose seats with extra legroom or in the front row, for example. Alongside this, the DGCA has also made it clear that airlines must be transparent. The number of free seats and all applicable terms must be displayed during booking, and passengers on the same PNR should be seated close together. The decision has not gone down well with the industry, reportedly. Carriers like Indigo, Air India, SpiceJet warning that it could hurt revenue and push up base fares, reportedly. The Federation of Indian Airlines, meanwhile, has even requested a rollback of the directive. The DGCA is also tightening rules on ancillary charges. Airlines will now have to clearly disclose fees for optional services like carrying sports equipment or musical instruments, and explain the liability terms in case of damage. With more than 5 lakh passengers flying daily in India, this change is expected to impact millions, making air travel more transparent and passenger-friendly. Imagine a lighthouse, but not in water or near the shore. Imagine it floating in space, emitting precise beams of light to guide ships not across oceans, but across Earth, the airspace, even deep space. That is exactly the kind of navigation Chinese researchers claim to have achieved. Chinese researchers saying they have deployed an 11th satellite constellation designed to deliver precise positioning even when GPS signals are blocked or jammed. Unlike traditional systems that basically depend on radio waves, this network uses coded light signals transmitted from satellites. The concept is quite simple. Satellites emit powerful coded beams of light towards planet Earth. Ground-based receivers capture these signals and calculate their position using the direction of the incoming light and the known location of the satellites. This approach offers a key, unique advantage. Light travels in straight, narrow paths, making it significantly more resistant to interference than radio signals, and that makes it especially useful in contested environments where GPS disruption is common. Optical navigation has already seen use in modern conflicts, including the ongoing war in West Asia, helping drones operate in GPS-denied zones. The system also improves on traditional star-based navigation instead of relying on faint and distant celestial objects. It uses controlled, bright sources, allowing for much higher accuracy. However, the technology is not without challenges. It requires a clear line of sight, meaning weather conditions like clouds or physical obstructions can impact performance. For now, it is designed to complement GPS rather than actually replace it. Looking ahead, researchers aim to integrate this system with existing communication networks to support navigation in difficult environments like tunnels or dense urban areas. And there are plans also to extend its use into deep space, where even a single orbiting satellite could guide missions to the moon and beyond. Lawmakers in India's Telangana passed a bill that would slash salaries of employees not taking proper care of their elderly parents. The bill is basically aimed at ensuring dignity for senior citizens. The bill mandates public representatives, government and private employees care for their elderly parents. If employees fail to comply with the new law, then 15% of the salary or 10,000 rupees, whichever is lower, would be payable to the parents. The law also mandates accountability for ensuring essential aspects of elderly welfare like healthcare, housing, financial security. The bill's provisions also addressing instances of neglect and establishing mechanisms that enable the authorities to intervene and enforce compliance where necessary. It also empowers parents with the right to seek maintenance from their children and provides a formal grievance redressal mechanism. In fact, the state chief minister said the new law would go beyond the contours of the existing national law, the Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act 2007. He also said that it is unfortunate that the state has to enact such legislation. Shifting focus, a new study by Stanford researchers outlines the dangers of asking AI chatbots for personal advice. The study says AI chatbots tend to prioritize agreement with users rather than provide objective guidance or information. It suggested that this behavior by chatbots could have wider social and behavioral consequences. The research published in the journal Science focuses on AI, psychopantic nature of AI chatbots, saying it is not just a stylistic issue, but a common behavior with potentially harmful consequences. And in the first part of the study, researchers tested 11 large language models, including ChatGPT, Gemini, DeepSeek reportedly. They used queries based on real-world interpersonal advice and scenarios involving potentially harmful or illegal actions. The study found that AI responses were around 49% more likely than human responses to validate user behavior. And in the second part, more than 2,400 participants interacted with different types of AI chatbots, some designed to be psychophantic, others more neutral. Participants were basically asked to discuss personal problems or respond to scenarios drawn from online platforms. The study found that users were more likely to prefer and trust psychophantic AI responses and were more inclined to seek advice from such chatbots again. Now, these effects remain consistent across different age groups reportedly, different backgrounds, and levels of familiarity with AI reportedly. Researchers warned this could create perverse incentives for AI developers, where engagement is driven by responses that may also cause harm. The study also found that users interacting with psychophantic AI were more likely to believe they were right and less likely to apologize or reconsider their actions. Experts say this could reduce pro-social behavior and also increase dependence on AI systems over time. In a world of abundance, hunger remains one of humanity's greatest failures. Every year, more than 3 million children die from hunger-related causes, even as the world throws away food on an unimaginable scale. And according to the United Nations Food Agency, a staggering 1.3 billion tons of food, which is nearly 1/3 of all the food produced globally, is lost or wasted every single year. Imagine that. So this year, on International Zero Waste Day, the global focus is clearly on food waste, as it should be. A call to governments, businesses, individuals to act before this crisis deepens further. The reality is alarming, to say the least. Data from the Global Report on Food Crises revealing that in 2024 alone, more than 295 million people across 53 countries faced acute hunger. It saw a sharp rise of nearly 14 million from the year before. At the very extreme, 1.4 million people are now living on the edge of famine. Those are the numbers. The worst hit region is Gaza, where over 640,000 people are facing catastrophic food insecurity, followed closely by Sudan and other vulnerable nations like South Sudan, Yemen, Haiti, Mali. But the crisis does not end there. Over 30 million people worldwide are grappling with severe level 4 food insecurity. It's just one step below famine. From Sudan and Yemen to the Democratic Republic of Congo, Afghanistan, and even parts of South Asia, hunger is spreading silently and rapidly. And at the heart of this humanitarian crisis are children. More than 43 million children suffering from severe hunger. Nearly half of all deaths in children under 5 are linked to malnutrition. This is not a food crisis. It's a generational emergency. And yet, parallel to this suffering is a global system that continues to waste food at just about every level, from farms to our folks. Countries around the world are contributing to this significant loss. China leading in the total waste with over 108 million tons annually. India following with more than 78 million tons wasted each year. In Pakistan, the per-person waste is even higher and is driven by storage and transport failures. In Africa, Nigeria loses millions of tons due to poor infrastructure and limited market access. In developed economies like the United States, the problem is different. The high consumption and consumer habits basically drive the massive food disposal. And in countries like Egypt, per capita waste is among the highest in the world. From Brazil to Indonesia, from Bangladesh to Mexico, the story is pretty much the same. Food is being lost in harvesting, spoiling in storage, wasted in transport, thrown away in homes. So how can a world that produces enough food to feed everyone still allow millions to starve? The answer lies in responsibility, of course. And as the world marks Zero Waste Day, reducing waste is not just about saving resources, it's about saving lives around the world. It's a necessity. The fight against hunger remains far from over if food does not reach every plate. With that, it's a wrap on this edition. This is me, Molly Kampi, signing off. Thanks very much for watching.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Beyond the noise and rhetoric, no election, no ballot issue too small. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. More than just headlines. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power. Only on WION. World is one.
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at WION.com.
In West Asia, every move shifts the world's balance. Wars, ceasefires, alliances, power never stands still. From Tehran to Tel Aviv, from Damascus to Doha, the West Asia Post cuts through the chaos to reveal the region that shapes the world. Because what happens in West Asia never stays in West Asia. This is the West Asia Post, the region's story, the world's impact.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies,